you tend to forget about the stories that are always there. And the big story that is always there in Britain is, of course, the migrant crisis. So while we're all getting quite rightly worked up about Chris Caber, Peter Lynch, the Prime Minister's penchant for foreign travel, so on and so forth, guess what happened this morning? 2 people drowned off the coast of Calais, and 46 had to be rescued. And guess what? Yesterday, another 149 migrants successfully crossed the channel in 3 boats. So, and still they come, and still they come. All the time. And I know I keep going on about this, but while we're seeing people drown, the death toll for this year now is a scandalous 54. 54 lives lost in the channel, drowned in the channel. Do you remember last week a baby drowned, for God's sake? 2 people more this morning. 149 came across yesterday. And the reason I'm getting worked up about this, and I think we all should, is once again we have to say, you know, while Starmer's swanning off to Samoa, enjoying the Pacific sunshine and the palm trees and the company of the king, what is he doing about this? What is he doing about these people who are dying? These people who are drowning in the channel? These people who keep on coming? What is he doing? Nothing. This is a disgrace, folks. Let's talk to the Director at the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening, Kevin. Good to see you again.
Always a pleasure. It's been too long. I mean, you heard me getting worked up, but I'm right to get worked up, aren't I? People are drowning, and the inertia of this government about this crisis, the migrant crisis, the escalating migrant crisis, is quite frankly scandalous. You know, this border security command, we're going to smash the people smuggling gangs. Sorry, I forgot the adjective. We're going to smash the evil people smuggling gangs. It's just verbiage. The Border Security Command is set up, its premise is wrong anyway. You can smash as many gangs as you like, you won't stop the migrants. But how many gangs have they caught? How many people have they caught? No one. They're not doing anything. And what Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, this is her remit, and the Prime Minister, when was the last time they even mentioned the migrant crisis? It's a disgrace, isn't it?
Well, it's a national scandal. It's an international scandal. And what is more, and what emphasises it even more so, is that the people in charge, and I don't just mean the politicians here, and I don't mean people like Macron, who I've said before has aided and abetted the deaths of the people in the channel. Those people who've aided and abetted those deaths are the civil servants who failed to achieve the goals of stopping the boats or smashing the gangs. Those people who've aided and abetted the deaths of those people are those who oppose strict border control and deterrence that would have a definite impact on the people smugglers. Those in non-government organisations, charities, are aiding and abetting these deaths by not allowing the governments to tackle this properly and allowing our court system to work. And at the end of the day, they may sit around their comfortable dinner tables wherever they are in the country, whichever political party they support. But if they're not supporting serious deterrence, which means not allowing those boats to come across from France in the first instance, I've always argued they're aiding and abetting the deaths of those children, women and men in the channel every year, over 400 since 2019.
And I know, Stephen, that you were not a fan of the Rwanda scheme, and I understand the reservations that everyone had about that. I wasn't thrilled about it myself. However, it was something. It was something. And when people say it just didn't work, well, to be fair to it, it never started. You know, we didn't really ever send anyone to Rwanda, so we never got the chance to see whether or not it would have been effective. So Keir Starmer's jettisoning of that on day one of his rubbish administration, knee-jerk axing of that scheme, us having spent, well, according to Yvette Cooper, we taxpayers had spent £700 million on the Rwanda scheme. I'm not sure where she got that from. As far as I can work out, we'd spent, you know, one estimate, it seems to be about £370 million. A lot of money anyway, to just axed that scheme in a knee-jerk way without any consideration for what taxpayers had already invested in it, without any consideration for what you would do as a deterrent afterwards, you know, was impetuous, immature, naive and ridiculous. And as the leader of their new Border Security Command, Martin Hewitt, former copper, said hilariously on day one when they appointed him to smash the evil people smuggling gangs, he actually said what I always say. He said, you can smash the gangs, it won't stop the migrants. So that you know, he said, without a deterrent, the migrant crisis will only get worse. So, you know, what are they doing? What they've done is they've made a complete screw-up of it. They've made a complete mess. They've made it worse. And their method of confronting this is to sort of essentially stick their fingers in their ears and go, la, 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 I'm off to Samoa.
Well, yes, and I point not only to the Labour Party, who, in abolishing the Rwanda scheme, followed exactly what the Democrats did on the first day that Joe Biden became president, when he cancelled 57 pieces of legislation to stop those travelling across from the United States into the United States from Mexico. And now we've seen over 5 to 6 million people come across those borders in the past couple of years alone. And all this will do is, as you say, put fingers in their ears. But why I get angry about it, and why I've been angry on this show about the deaths in the channels before, is because everybody involved in this who are opposing Rwanda, the scheme that had potential but also had bigger errors, but it was the only deterrent in town at the time, we should have given it an opportunity to work, is that they're like characters from Yes Minister. They are sad individuals who shift paper around, attempting in the best way they can just to allow things to continue in the hope that there's no serious enough tragedy to actually do anything. These people are lazy, bone idle, and good for nothing, in my view, when it comes to controlling immigration, controlling illegal migration, and dealing with the people smugglers. They should hang their heads in shame, but they won't. All they're looking forward to is retirement on a very good pension.
Exactly right. Now, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, Calamity Cooper, as some of us call her, you know, she boasted about this ridiculous Border Security Command, saying that it would be issued with the, you know, the highest level of cutting-edge, state-of-the-art technology. Officers and top coppers employed to chase these smuggling gangs down. Well, you know, she set this up way back in July is when they announced the Border Security Command. They didn't find anyone to lead it for about 2 months, even though they were offering 200 grand a year, because everybody knew it was a hiding to nothing. They finally hired this guy, Martin Hewitt, who on day one completely pulled the rug from under their feet by saying, look, I can catch the gangs for you, but that won't solve your crisis. The migrants will keep on coming. You catch one gang, put them in jail, there'll be a new gang tomorrow. So their premise is all wrong. But with no deterrent, the Border Security Command, you know, demonstrably catching the square root of damn all people smugglers, you know, their policy is just one of assimilation. It is just to say, oh, well, we've got all these asylum seekers, they would have been deported, 40,000 of them. Oh, just let them stay. Let's do that. Oh, we better get some more hotels because they're coming across the channel at a rate of nuts. You know, so they're having to commandeer more and more hotels, something that they said they would get rid of. They'd stop using hotels. Their policy is one of shoulder-shrugging assimilation of more and more illegal migrants who they just allow to stay. I call it a policy. That's not a policy, it's a disgrace.
Well, I think it is a distinct policy that they have, Kevin. I think it's something that they believe in genuinely. But don't you get utterly bored and depressed by their banal, obfuscating verbiage when they say these things, that we're putting in the strongest measures to stop the gangs, we're appointing new individuals and a new task force to deal with it. It all sounds like some 18-year-old in their marketing team that has put through words in ChatGPT just to say, let's think of some words that we can give the public to pretend we're actually doing something, whilst in the background we're not doing anything. The key thing I was always taught when growing up is actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
And in the words of the government, for them, action is words as long as there's inaction on the actual dealing with the terrorists and the people smugglers. That's where they are. They're bad individuals, I think, to adopt a word and phrase from Donald Trump. These individuals are bad. They are malevolent because they don't do anything. Deaths in the water do not need to happen. They allow them to happen by inaction.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I always say, you know, what was it now? About a month or so ago, Keir Starmer went to Rome to meet the Italian leader, Giorgia Meloni, who was making great steps to solve their migrant crisis there. She reduced it by 62% by doing deals with Tunisia and Libya to, drumroll, turn the boats around. That was having great effect. And she also set up a kind of Rwanda scheme for Italy, only it was Albania. So they were sending their asylum seekers to Albania to have their applications processed. And of course, migrants don't like that idea. That's not part of their plan. So it was working. It was working. And Keir Starmer said at the time, "Oh, I'm quite impressed by this. I'm very interested in this." And then came back and did nothing. Absolutely nothing. And as I always say, I'm sure you're going to agree with me here, Stephen, what's the difference between Giorgia Meloni and Keir Starmer when it comes to our two migrant crises? It's this. Giorgia Meloni wants to solve Italy's migrant crisis, and Keir Starmer does not want to solve our migrant crisis. I think the problem we've got with Labour is they actually like these people coming across. It feeds into their vision of a borderless world where, you know, happy people move without being held up at all by anything. You know, oh, come one, come all. They don't want to solve that. Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper and the Labour gang don't actually want to solve our migrant crisis, I believe. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I actually also would say that there were those within the Conservative government, including Rishi Sunak and many of the those who might be regarded as the Liberals or the wet side of the Conservatives. I think they call themselves the One Nation Conservatives. I don't believe they want to stop the migration crisis. And I think why I say that too, it's not just the Labour Party who have it, is when you heard what Boris Johnson said, is that he didn't really enforce the migrants because we needed to have people to fill the shops and do the work in the lorries. And so there is this kind of psychology on the right that these people will come in and fill the jobs because people are dying here and we're not producing enough babies. Whereas on the left, it's all kumbaya. They think everybody coming from different cultures are beautiful, wonderful people, when we know that many of them are not. Most are, but many are not. And that culturally everyone can fit in together on a small island like this very well. Our history shows that doesn't work very well. So you're right. I don't think they have any intention in wanting to stop this. And they're supported by those people who I say are malevolent, who generally don't want to do this and use the courts, the civil service, any other system that they can, including the media, to prevent people from being prevented from coming here.
Can I ask you a last question? Because, you know, one of the problems that Italy is now having, tragically for Giorgia Meloni, of course, you know, with a kind of sickening inevitability, the judiciary in Italy is now busy trying to undermine her Albanian asylum centre scheme by saying it's illegal and calling back all the migrants, saying, oh, well, if we deport them back to their home countries, we don't know if their home countries are safe. So Italy has the same problem that we do. The judges are obviously left-leaning and they're undermining it. So here we have very much the same problem. In the end, just recently, we've had a couple of Albanian migrants, you know, people who've been in prison, been deported twice sneaked back into the country. They've done jail terms, and the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights, when they've appealed that far, has said that they have the right to stay here because they've got a family and things like that, even though they're crooks, even though they've been to jail. So it's always the ECHR here. Can you explain, you're a lawyer, Stephen, what does Britain actually, I keep asking people this, I never get a decent answer. What do we get out of our membership of the convention, the European Convention on Human Rights? What do we actually get apart from being told what to do by a foreign court?
Well, what we actually get is, for a few people, they get nice sinecures in terms of the jobs that they get in Strasbourg, being able to go over and work there and enjoy the expense accounts and dinners and come back to their friends and brag about the job that they work abroad. They're the civil servants who get the same opportunities to do that and create another portfolio within the Home Office or the Justice Department that say, I can look after this. But actually, as a nation, we get no security. All those comforts that we get from allegedly being members of the Court of Human Rights, the kind of protections, are within our common law that we have. And as I said many times on this show, that we've had about 700 occasions when people have appealed to the Court of Human Rights, and we've lost about 85% of them as a country. And all that does is expands the principles of a top-down judicial system created in Europe into our bottom-up common law system that enables the judges to be able to say, yes, I'm going to allow this face-slashing Albanian who's been exported and deported from our country to come back here and allow himself to live in the same area as the woman that he's slashed, because he's got a right to a family life under the European Court of Human Rights. These individuals who are making these judgments and allowing them to come into our courts simply live in a different world to the rest of us. They're cosseted, they're comforted, and they're protected by nice financial benefits at the end of their careers. That's why they don't care. And I generally have nothing to do with them anymore because I've lost respect of them as human beings. I've tried so hard to persuade them to understand how people in this country are suffering because of their actions, and yet they're completely oblivious of it. They don't seem to care. It's like they've built their own wall around them, saying that I'm good and you're bad, when it's the other way around.
Yeah. So just to summarise, my final point, just to summarise, Britain gets nothing out of being a member of the European Convention on Human Rights. It's ridiculous. They go, oh, if we leave, we'll be with Russia and Belarus, the only 3 countries who aren't a member, and all this kind of stuff, as if you have to be in that club, the ECHR club, to believe in human rights. That's nonsense. We pretty much invented human rights in this country, and leaving the ECHR would not mean that we abrogate our belief in human rights. It's absolute nonsense. Stephen, a pleasure to talk to you again. Thank you so much for coming on. Stephen Wolfe, there, Director at the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. When we come back, we'll be talking about America. And again, it's Keir Starmer's very stupid decision to sanction 100 Labour volunteers to head over to America to help Kamala's campaign in the key swing states. Yeah, that's such a stupid thing to do, because when Trump wins, and it looks like he will, what's that going to do for the special relationship between Britain and America? Donald Trump, President Trump, will turn around and, you're the guy who tried to help my rival beat me. I'm not doing anything for you. And honestly, has this guy, Starmer, has he got any judgment whatsoever? This is madness.